Welcome back to the Not Just a Bikini Girl podcast. This is your host, Jasmine Anderson, and today I'm going to go straight into this one. I have the lovely Phoebe Hagan with us today, and the reason why I've got her on is because I feel like personally, from a mindset perspective and a physique standpoint, she's really come far. And she's just come off a fantastic second place at the UK BFF Junior Finals. She's had some really cool appearances on BBC Three, and she's got a really great YouTube channel. So I'm really excited to pick her brains and find out more about her journey. So welcome, Phoebe.
Oh, that was such a lovely intro. But, hello.
Okay, so it's only been a few weeks since your final show, right?
Yeah, it's been 12 days. I think this is the 12th day post show from the BFF British Finals. I know, it's gone so quick already.
So talk us through how you're feeling at the moment after coming out of that show.
Like I came out of that show really on like a good high. Like I'm really happy that obviously my competing season ended on a really good high. Um and now like to have all my energy back, to have strength back in the gym, like everything's just going like so well. And yeah, like off season's pretty much in full swing now, so I'm excited.
Nice. So I know that we briefly spoke about this, but I find your journey really interesting, especially not just from this year, but also from last year. So for listeners that don't really know your backstory, I don't know whether you want to give a bit of a back history of what's been going on with you.
Yeah, well, how I started competing was pretty much how like I met my boyfriend through the gym, and then he pretty much introduced bodybuilding to my life, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. And the British finals that I just done 12 days ago was my 12th show that I've done in the last 2 years of competing. So that's like crazy to say. Like I've done 12 shows in 2 years. That's just like mental. But yeah, last year was totally different. Obviously, it was totally new to me. I've never even like been in the bodybuilding industry. Like I've been into fitness and stuff. Like I used to be a cheerleader. I did cheerleading for like 8 years. And then after that, I always used to be into like some sort of fitness. Like I loved dance and I loved running as well. But obviously, I've always been into fitness, but bodybuilding was absolutely new territory to me. So like I was going in pretty much with not a lot of knowledge, just what I've kind of found from the internet, pretty much. And then yeah, going off of that. But each show it made me better. Like so, from my first show I did was Mass SBC, which is a university-based federation, which you're only allowed to be a university student for this federation, which I think is quite good for people wanting to get into the industry. And that's what I pretty much did. And that I won that and won Bikini overall as well of the whole day, which was really cool for my first show. So I was like absolutely buzzing. Yeah. So then I went to Federation and I went to UKBFF. And last year I did, I think it was, how many? South Coast. I think I did about 6 shows in UKBFF last year. Yeah. So I literally just went head first because for me last year, I like, from obviously coming from first and overall, and then I went into my first UKBFF competition and I came sixth, and that kind of really hit me harder than I thought it would, because I knew it was a massive federation and I knew it was going to be tough, but I still thought like, oh, like damn, like I didn't place or anything. But from there it made me grow as a person to think, okay, let's improve on what I can improve on and let's get better. And from that point of coming from like first to sixth, like in that moment, it kind of became real to me to be like, right, this is how you get better. This is how you get stronger, like, and how you come back from each competition and just get better and better.
Like I'm still getting over 6 shows. Like I literally did one show this year, just missed out on the place, and thought, right, I'm just gonna go straight into an off season.
Yeah.
So talk to us about how it's actually like. Like, is it like your first 2 shows, you've got loads of energy, then you kind of peak, and then you kind of drop down? Like, I have no idea how you would feel with that. So tell us what it's like.
Well, I don't like this year doing that many shows. I think last year it was literally, I think I counted it out. I think it was literally from March, April, June, July, August, and then when was the British Finals last year? Then October, then November. So it was literally one pretty much every month last year, which, yeah, it did get to me by the end of it. Like, I was absolutely just like, it was like just not just exhausted is like isn't even a word could like it was just absolutely ridiculous last year. But I just kind of pushed myself because I wanted to learn and I wanted to learn more about this sport each time I competed. And I found each time I competed, I got better. And that's what I kind of was addicted to. I kind of realized at how better I was getting each time I competed. So I just kept on going. But honestly, last year, by the end of it, obviously I was absolutely knackered and my body definitely needed a massive rest. But like when I was in it, I wasn't like so exhausted or tired or kind of like just absolutely knackered because I was so focused on just getting better. I know that sounds absolutely mental, but kind of like, you know, when you like, you're just so focused on something, everything else just doesn't even, you don't even feel anything else. Yeah. So I was just kind of focused on that a lot last year. Obviously this year I did less. So last year I did 7 shows. This year I did 5, which is still quite a lot. And I think this year it definitely did, like hit me at the end, like for British finals, like the last 3 shows were difficult. So, but yeah.
So after doing that many shows, like, what did you think that you learned like every single time? Like, was it your posing got better? Was your peak week getting better so you were becoming tighter in the shows? Like, what do you think was really beneficial for you in that sense?
Well, for me, it was like obviously I did my first 2 shows and I didn't have a coach, and then I got a coach. Um, and that was a lot easier for me because obviously he could tell me like what to eat, obviously peak week and stuff, because I would just lower calories and I would just wouldn't know like how everything worked like 2 years ago, like last year and stuff. So, but now obviously it's a lot easier for me. Like I know what to do now, in terms of like peak week and water loading and all of that type of thing. But every time I kind of did a competition, like one, I absolutely loved at the stage. That's why I kept on going back. And 2, it was just like, you know, it's just like little things. You look back on videos, you look back on photos of yourself, and you're like, I can improve on that. And it was also expanding my mind of like how to take criticism a lot more. Because I used to literally when I was younger, like in like high school years, I used to like when people would say something not bad about me, but like I don't know, like joke about something like, oh, like I have curly hair, and they'd be like, oh, your hair's frizzy. I would literally take that to heart, and I'd be like really upset over a comment like that. But now, like compared to now, when I get a comment from like any bodybuilding or anything from social media, like I can take it, and that's what I've learned quite a lot from this industry is that to take criticism, and everyone has their own opinion.
So, in comparison to high school, when you said you used to struggle with taking criticism, you've now taken quite an objective standpoint. Now, what is it about bodybuilding that helps you get that objective standpoint and take the criticism in comparison to when you were like at high school?
I think it's just that I've just grown up a bit more. Like, because obviously high school, you're quite young anyway, and like something like that, no one likes to hear criticism really. And some comments, obviously, I think sometimes are ridiculous for me, and it's kind of like if sometimes it gets to you a little bit like, oh, is that really the content that people think I put out, or as in, oh, really, is that what they think when I'm on stage or anything like that? If there is a certain comment that they say, but I always think like I think it's just my mind's expanded more. Like I'm so more open minded just about other people's opinions because I always think like everyone is entitled to their own opinion. So you can't really say, oh, I'm right when everyone has their own like way of thinking.
I think that's a big one for people to take away, especially if you're going into the competing world for the first time. Like, it can be really hard. And it can be hard to not take it as like a personal attack.
The thing is, that's why it's so hard. I think at the beginning for me last year, it was quite hard when like I was getting kind of the missing of the placing of the top 3, and because I kind of was still in that mindset of I'm bringing my best, I'm doing this. But you have to remember with the competing world is you have to bring your best, and I always think you want to win, but you can never expect to win or place, because you can only bring your best. You can't control who turns up on the day. You can't control the judges, like what they're looking for and anything like that. So I always think as long as you've brought your best and you've done everything you can in your prep, then you should be proud of what you bring to stage. You can never be like try and be someone else just because, like, I don't know, just because of what comments have been said, like from a judge or from social media.
So what's your kind of strategy when it comes to peak week and maybe like your few weeks from your show? Now, I remember when I did my first show, which was ages ago at Fit Factor, I was comparing myself quite a lot, and I remember that got me down quite a bit. So what is it that you do now which you wish you potentially should have done previously?
Last year, I like that was me last year. I would go on social media and, like, not purposely, but you make friends through the competing world, and then you start following other people, then you don't know that they compete, and then they put up, oh, I'm competing at this show, and you realize it's the same show as you, and then you obviously see their photos more and more, not even going on their profiles, just seeing their photos on your feed, and you're like, oh my god, I'm against her, like what the hell is going on, like I'm not gonna, like, it that's just all the comments that run through my head every time. But now, like, I don't know what it is, it's like a switch has just flicked, and like, if I see someone that I'm competing against, I'm like, gosh, she looks good, give her a compliment. Like, I don't know, it's just so different this year, like so different. Like my mind just completely, like, switched off, because I don't kind of focus on other people. I just kind of focus on myself. Like, if obviously I'm not gonna, if I see someone and be like, oh, she looks really good, oh, and then kind of not comment or anything, or like not like it just because I'm against her, I'll comment and like her photo and be like, girl, you look so good, like you're gonna kill it, type thing. Because I think the most important thing you can take away from competing, especially, is the people you meet in it, and the way you kind of act in the kind of competing world. Like, if you're really to yourself, or if you're really like open and just chatty with everyone, kind of determines, I don't know, who you, like how you stand in the industry. I know loads of people that literally, like, they will switch, like you said, they'll switch off, they will not even look at social media because they need to get into that mental, like, mindset of like competing and stuff. I think I don't post anything for like quite a while, just because I know it sounds really weird, but as in, I can never be bothered to post anything, because sometimes I really like to put in good captions on my Instagrams and stuff like that, but my mind is just so like away with the fairies at that point in like peak week, so I just have no clue like what to write, and then trying to get a good photo, and I'm like, I can't even be bothered. So I think it's like peak week I'll probably post like one physique update and then not post anything because I can't be bothered.
Okay, so the next thing I want to talk to you directly about, if that's okay, is your transformation from the Arnold's in Barcelona to the Finland show. Now, I know you were really open on Instagram and social media about like you just weren't feeling like you brought your best, and that kind of got you down. So I don't know if you want to talk about that, because I definitely do think that your package from the Barcelona to Finland was like completely different.
Yeah, I already knew that Finland was definitely my best condition. I think all season. I think my Marbella condition was quite good, but I think confidence wise, the way I looked, everything, my favourite show was Finland, and that's a massive thing, because the way I treated my mindset going into Finland competition is probably why it was my best condition, probably why it was my favorite competition, and probably why like I did so well. But the Arnold, I think, was a massive learning curve for me, because I'd obviously won the English Grand Prix overall as well, and then went in straight away into Amateur Olympia in Marbella, placing there as well. I was like, I'm on a roll. Like, I'm so excited. Like, I want to place in the Arnold, and the difference between the mindset for English Grand Prix and Marbella and Finland compared to Arnold's was I went into the Arnold's competition. My mindset was like, I'm bringing back a trophy. I'm going to bring back a trophy. And I've never thought like that this year, apart from like last year. I used to always think that like I want to bring back a trophy, I want to place, blah blah blah. And that's when I kind of like went on. Like, I had so many nerves. I was stressed. Like everything was going on. You know, when you kind of get like nervous and like worried, and then just little things start to go wrong. Like my tan went a little bit patchy, and I really like worried, so I put more tan on, and then it went worse, and I was like, "Fuck!" But it wasn't actually that bad. Like I was, you know, when you worry about something too much, and it wasn't even that bad.
Yeah.
And then my makeup was like, I don't know, my makeup starting smudging. My eyelash like fell off, so I had to put it on like so many times. And then my hair, I've always talked about my hair. My hair is not naturally straight. It is naturally very, very curly. And it was
Barcelona as well. It was like
my
really, really hot.
God, an absolute nightmare. It was so hot backstage. They kept on like backstage at the Arnold's, there's no mirrors, so I had to keep running to the bathroom like every time to like check condition or like how I looked and stuff. And it was like one thing after the other. It was just like little things as well. And yeah, I just like, for me, I was very stressed, and the reason I was so, even my boyfriend said, he was like, you didn't look yourself on stage, because I was so nervous. Like he was like, you kept on moving, you kept on posing like not the way you were supposed to, like the way you usually do. And like you can even see it in my face, like when I posted that Instagram, my face just looks nervous compared to my face in Finland, which is obviously frustrating for me, because it's like that was a big competition, and if I would have just gone in it with a different mindset, it could have been totally different. But obviously it's a massive learning curve, and I'm glad I kind of went through that, because it kind of made me better for Finland, which was good.
Okay, British finals, amazing result. You came
Literally so happy.
did you
Came second in my junior, and I came third in my height class.
Okay, so I'm not really familiar with how the UK BFF works, but does like the junior category differ in comparison to like your height class for like what they look for?
I think the difference is kind of like, obviously because you're junior, because I think it's you're under 23. So I think they look for less, sometimes they look for less conditioning in juniors, because you're quite young. I don't really know. Or like, yeah, I think it's kind of, that's how they look. The difference between junior and height class, I think it's literally sometimes condition. I don't really know what the actual difference is. I think it's just for people that are younger, that have a little bit more of a chance against people like their age.
Yeah,
Instead of,
who've got a few years muscle maturity or something like that.
yeah, because I think if you were to go straight into like a bikini class, and you were like 18 or something, up against people that are like 25, 24, then I think that would be that would be a bit difficult for you to kind of have a fair chance.
Okay, so I'm interested to hear what the feedback was from the British finals then.
My feedback was my condition for both of them. My condition wasn't as good as the girls who were above me, which is totally fair, and I totally agree with that. Like, I know my condition needs work for the next year and next season stuff. But I knew that already, and I think I'm my own worst critic as well, but I can kind of take it, and I don't mind. I like improving it anyway. But I think my condition from like Finland onwards wasn't like my best. Like, as in the British finals, I don't think was my best condition. And neither was Arnold's. I think we kind of got to play around with like things that we can work on and try and get my condition better on the day and stuff. But that's just things to like work on, and just like little things.
Sorry Sorry, babe, I keep interrupting you. Okay, so a lot of people say after show day that they actually look better, like the day after the show. Like, was that the case for you?
Kind of not, because I don't know, yeah, I'd say actually, yeah, because like you've eaten a lot more than you usually would, like, and you kind of, your muscles kind of fill out and that you get all vascular. And I think after show day, probably a lot of people would probably look better. But yeah, I think for me, that's kind of the same, to be fair.
So your boyfriend competes as well, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. He did a show. He did the Kent Classic this year in August.
And did he do well? Like, did he place?
Yeah, he came second. Unfortunately, he didn't get a invite, which was really, really frustrating. But he came second, and they only gave out British invites to the first place winner, which is really, really annoying.
Is that normal?
It depends. Like sometimes some classes you can just say they can just say, "Oh, we only want the winner," and some classes they say, "Oh yeah, all three." But for some reason, his class was only the winner, which is really, really frustrating. And I think next year he's gonna kind of, or he's either gonna have a massive off season to kind of grow, or he's gonna kind of do a show like later on next year. So I'm excited for that, to be fair.
So you're both prepping like at the same time?
Probably, which never happened. Oh, actually, no, it did happen this year. We were both on prep this year, actually. That was when I was on prep for the Arnolds, when he was on prep for his show. Yeah, so I like being on prep when he, like, the same time as him, because, like, we can kind of support each other a lot more, and we kind of know what each other's going through. And he doesn't have to eat in front of me, because all of my preps, I swear to God, he has eaten so much food in front of me. And I'm just like, can you just eat what I'm eating so I don't get jealous of your food?
So I can remember being like 2 weeks out for my show and cooking Joe like this massive like crumpets of like bacon, maple syrup, and all this like crazy stuff. And I was like, oh my God.
If anyone relates, I always like, what always helps my cravings, I smell like what he's eating, or like if he eats something and I'm like, oh, can I have a smell? Like if he's having like a cake or something like that, I'll smell it, which so many people have said I do that as well. So I'm glad I don't feel alone in that sense.
I used to like, you know, when dogs give you that look like just before you eat?
Yeah, that is me. I am the dog.
I'm literally looking like, Okay, so obviously being in a relationship while you're competing, like that's quite demanding in itself. And, you know, relationships don't work by themselves, like you've got to work at that. So how do you kind of balance working, I guess what I'm trying to say, on your relationship as well as like on your competing side as well? Because I know people can struggle with that.
Yeah, I do know like a lot of people. Well, I know a few people that have obviously had relationships and obviously like have had problems like on prep and stuff, because you do get very irritated really like a lot more easier when you're on prep. It's different. I think it is very different when you are both on prep, because you know, you understand. And I think me and my boyfriend are that point where if one of us snaps and we have like a little tiff, we kind of literally just come back to it in like 5 minutes and say sorry, because we know it's not like, we're not actually angry, like really, really angry at like each other. So in that sense, it is quite good when we do understand each other, because it's a case of just kind of just not pushing it to the side, because it probably wouldn't have been a problem if we weren't on prep, if that makes sense. So it's just like little things like, I don't know, I can't even think of an example. It's just like little things. If we were to just have like a mini argument, we'll just say sorry, because like we know it's nothing we can't kind of sort out. It's just because we are very lacking in food and mood swings.
Yeah, I don't know, like me and my boyfriend always say we're like, it'll be cool to like compete at the same time, but I can just imagine me and him arguing over like who does faster cardio first and like random shit like that. Okay, so let's talk off season. Like you've only just gone into like your off season, so what's your approach with that at the moment?
Well, I've kind of taken the approach. Obviously, I think the first like 2-3 days after show, because I was still in Nottingham Sunday. anyway. So Sunday, I literally just had what I wanted. We were in a hotel. There was no way I could like make any food or anything. So I just literally had what I wanted. Like I didn't go crazy or anything because I was already full from the night before anyway. So I just ate when I felt like, and that's what I kind of did for the last like 2 days. But obviously, for me, this is a lifestyle anyway. So like, I like making food, like my meals, like chicken and like sweet potato and like bagels and stuff. I like all of that stuff, but like just with a bit more flavor this time. But I am reversing out at the moment, and it is going really well. And like my strength is going up and stuff, which is really good. I have increased. I've got like 3 days, so I have like a high carb day, a low carb day, and a medium carb day. So I've got 3 days. So like obviously, I'm just carb cycling at the moment um out of my show day prep, which is actually going quite well. I've never done that before, so that's quite interesting to kind of see like how my body's reacting to that.
And how are you getting on with like controlling your hunger and bits like that? Because I know when I was kind of at my show, like that was something that really, really shocked me, and I wasn't expecting to feel like so hungry after I came off my stage.
Yeah, like the fact that you're allowed food, so you're like, I'm just gonna eat type thing. Yeah. Like to be fair, all right, because like if I want something to eat, I'll have my meal. But if I'm craving something like a chocolate bar, I'll have a chocolate bar. Like I'm not gonna kind of have that restriction. I didn't have that restriction last off season. Obviously, I want to make improvements, but I know one chocolate bar is not going to differ anything. Like obviously, if I did that every day, then it might be a problem. But like I know my body and I know what kind of to push, like how to push it, and how to restrict it and how to not to restrict it. So for me, especially for my mind as well, I think I don't want to get into that because I know a lot of people do find it very hard coming out of post competition, and they do restrict themselves a lot more than they need to, then end up binging because they've restricted so much. So I think for me, my main goal is kind of not to restrict so much, but to also, so kind of find that happy medium, like everyone wants to kind of have a chocolate bar, basically have a chocolate bar when they want one, but also not to have one every day type thing, to kind of restrict enough to make it a balanced lifestyle, but also improve and stuff like that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like I've been doing a lot more like noting like when I'm getting cravings around my cycle and like bits like that. If I really, really do feel stressed, like, and I do eat something, like, it's not as if it's bad, because I feel like once you start labeling it as like bad and good, then it kind of spirals and it actually doesn't become more like balanced. Then it becomes more of a psychological like difficulty that people face.
Yeah, that's what I don't like the most. A lot of people at the moment keep like, I don't know, kind of, obviously a lot of people, social media and YouTube are so popular at the moment, like unbelievably popular. And a lot of it's so good. Like I do love it. I do love seeing people kind of put out their own content and their own stories, because like that's pretty much what I did last year, like putting out my own story of like competing and stuff. So it's so cool seeing like other people do it as well. And obviously I follow quite a lot of people anyway, and obviously seeing like loads of post show competitors, and a lot of people are coming out of their post show, so it's very difficult for them at the moment. So I think what the most important thing is to just do is kind of make sure, like, I don't know, like do post show the right way, if that makes sense. Kind of like, yeah, post show kind of doing it the right way. And obviously what basically how I've done it is just literally up my calories like slowly each kind of few days even, and that has worked for me, and I feel like really good within my body, like I feel strong, like I look strong, and I love that. I do like, it's such a love hate relationship. I love having like abs and like being like, look at my abs, but then I also love being like, look at my peachy butt now, like I have a butt, and like look at my shoulders because they're filled out, like not depleted. But yeah, I think the most important thing with post show is just to make sure you don't get obsessive, like either way. Like a lot of people will either get obsessive of counting macros and making sure that they're on point every day, and kind of restricts like they did on prep, but they'll also kind of overindulge and be like, I'm off season, so they're just going to be obsessed with just eating as much food as possible. So I think the important thing is just finding that balance in between.
Like, I'm so glad you said that, and that is something that I touch on in a previous episode, the post-show playbook. Like, if all you're focusing on is food, then you're basically telling your subconscious to focus on food, and it's just gonna be like food, food, food the whole time. Whereas if you just distract yourself like as best as you can and put it into like a positive thing, then it makes the whole process like a lot easier.
Yeah, I think that's so important. Like my focus this time is literally just to get strong AF and just like build myself up like to a better person. And that's my main focus this off season and stuff.
So you say you do a lot of coaching, particularly in the off season when it comes to the PH training coaching program that you kind of offer to girls. So how does that differ? Obviously the food differs, but how much does it differ in terms of the training, do you find, or does it kind of depend on like client to client?
For me, for me, I've kind of taken on a few girls that have kind of like, I'm kind of taking them into their off season and then bringing them into their competing season. And for me, it's quite cool because obviously I'm on off season as well. And the way I do training at the moment, I kind of am focusing on the way I'm training, like my technique, but also strength. Like some days I'll go a lot heavier and kind of get the weight up, because I know a lot of people say you can shove on a load of weights on the bar, but are you really like, and you can obviously move the weights from A to B, but are you really like contracting your muscles, blah, blah, all of that. And then sometimes I'll obviously do really good technique and sometimes I'll do strength days, which is totally fine. And that's the way I like to do it, because I love lifting heavy. And I know if I was just to restrict myself and be like, oh, I'm not going to put that much weight on because I know it's not going to contract my muscles, blah, blah. But I do like training heavy. So if I can move the weight from A to B, still get a good contraction, then I'm going to do it type thing. Yeah. The way I kind of do things with my girls on off season is pretty much monitor their nutrition and their training plans weekly, and kind of get their calories to as high as possible, without obviously gaining too much body fat and stuff like that, monitoring that, and making sure obviously training is obviously really good as well, so they can get like as much muscle gain as possible. But yeah, I love it because a lot of the girls that I've kind of signed on at the moment they're the same as me. They're the same mindset. They want to build, because a lot of people will say, I want to build, but then they get scared when the scales go up, which I think is totally normal. But you need to obviously get that thought out of your head of the scales are a bad thing type thing.
So when it comes to your clients generally, what is the biggest struggle that you kind of come across? Well, they come across, is it they're struggling to push their numbers up in the gym, really hit that failure, or is it food? Like, what have you found personally is the hardest part for them?
I think it's definitely, for them, it's weight gain. I think for a lot of people find it very difficult gaining weight on their off season. Obviously, they're so hungry to like improve and wanting to build muscle and do better than last year, but then again they are very scared of the scales going up. And I know like that was me last year. Like, I didn't like seeing the scales go up last year at all, but now it literally doesn't even bother me. Like, I don't care what the scales say. Like, I weigh myself every day, and like just to get myself in that frame of mind of being like, the scales mean, like, the scales are a good indicator of stuff, but at the same time, for off season, I don't know, like off season you're gonna gain, like if you're gonna gain weight either way. So I think you've kind of got to just accept that in that sense.
Yeah, definitely. And I've actually done a bit of like a new technique. So I look at my body before I step on the scales every single time now. And, you know, your body hasn't changed from the 2 seconds that you've weighed yourself. So as long as I have that positive thought like fully ingrained in my head of like, what do I think about my body right now? And then when I go on the scales, like that number doesn't bother me because I've been able to rationalize that negative thought pattern and that belief system within my head. Whereas if you just go straight to the scales as soon as you wake up, like you are putting your whole belief system on a number. Whereas if you just go to the mirror first, you'll be able to feel like you're more in control of what you think. And obviously that affects the rest of the day. So I think that's so, so important if anyone's struggling, is to look in the mirror first before you weigh yourself.
Yeah, that's so so true. Like I genuinely agree with that so much, because I think a lot of people really, they'll jump on the scales in the morning and be like, oh my god, I've gone up like a kilo or 2 pound or whatever, and they'll get so disheartened and be like, why have I gone up? And then they'll look at themselves and be like, oh, I'm so like bloated, or I've put on so much weight, blah blah blah. And actually they don't look that bad. And I always say take photos of yourself. Like photos are a better indicator of how you actually feel, because like the scales could say whatever. Like loads of people always say like, I can't believe you're 60 kilos, blah blah blah, like in your competing, like that's my competing stage weight, like 61 kilos, and they're like, how is that like possible? Like that's not heavy, but like some bodybuilders I know are like 60 whatever kilos, and like they're like, how are you that heavy? And I'm like, it doesn't bother me. Like you have to take in so much indications and factors into the scales as well. And I don't know, I think people overanalyze the scales, I think, a bit too much when it comes to prep sometimes.
So when it came to like stage weight for like hitting like a certain weight when you kind of wanted to compete and get up on that stage, like did it differ a lot? Because they do say like when you fly, like that holds water and it can affect how much you weigh and like bits like that. So it'd be interesting to hear what you think about all that stuff.
Yeah, I think for Arnold, because I flew out on the Wednesday and I competed on Saturday and Sunday, um, I think I was just very stressed both days. I don't think Arnold's was great for me at all. Like body wise, I kind of worked towards it, and then the last few days were just stressful. So I think, and I think that's all down to myself, like putting myself under that pressure. Um, the last couple of days of being like, right, let's focus. Like that's what I was going to say about the difference between like Finland and Arnold's, was that like on show day, I always love like talking to loads of people, like being around the people that I wanted, taking photos, like and stuff like that. But for Arnold's, I didn't do that for the Saturday. I kind of was like, right, I'm focusing on myself. I'm not gonna not talk to anyone, but kind of just be in my own mindset, like listen to music, which I never do. And that made me actually more nervous. I was texting my boyfriend like, I'm really, really nervous. I don't know why. And he was like, you look fine. Like I was sending him photos. I'm like, I don't feel myself. And I knew that. And I went and I took that on stage. And the difference between Finland and Arnold's was like, I was enjoying myself so much more backstage. And my mindset was, I've brought my best. Like I grinded so hard in the 2 weeks between Arnold's and Finland to get like my body back, because I had a few days obviously where I just kind of ate what I want, because I had a few days in Barcelona. And I kind of grinded so hard for those 2 weeks. And I was like, I've put myself through so much. I'm so proud of my body, what I've brought, and that is all that matters. I was like, if I don't get top 6, I don't care. Like I've brought my best. Like this is my best condition, like this entire season, and it worked out because like I got third, and like it showed that I was enjoying myself on the day so much.
Yeah, I do agree with you. And it was like so obvious when looking at your stage photos as well. And I think as well, it's like doing what works for you. Like some people like to be like quite social when they're on like just before they step on stage. Some people like to kind of go into their own little zone sort of thing. So yeah, like if you have to go in your own little world and like that's what makes you enjoy your show day and like bring your best, then yeah, like do it. But because it's interesting actually when you look at people's feedback, they say, oh, I should have done this and that on stage, when actually sometimes they need to kind of look past that and look behind the stage and see whether that actually affected their performance. That's quite interesting.
Exactly, that's exactly how I took that this time round. Like I literally was like, right, I work better when I'm not busy. Well, kind of, yeah, busy almost, like to distract myself almost. But I enjoy myself so much more on for Finland than I did for Arnold. I would pick Finland over Arnold any day because it was just so much more enjoyable. Like, it wasn't even about the placing, it was just the way I went into the show. That's what changed like, it all, really.
Your 3 top mindset tips for any bikini competitor. Go.
Oh God, let me think about that one. What I would say is go in bringing your best. That is my main tip, is going bringing your best. Don't like think about placings, because I know a lot of people, obviously you want to go into the competition, you want to place. Like a lot of people, yeah, they do it for enjoyment, but they also want to go out there and kind of bring something back from what they've just put themselves through. But I also think like you need to just go into the competition, go into prep, and just say, I'm going to give it my absolute best shot. And that's all you can do. Because like I said before, you can't like, you don't know what's going to happen on the day. You don't know who's going to turn up on the day. You don't know what the judges are going to like on the day. So you've only just got to bring your best and don't get disheartened. Yeah, I think tip number 2 is don't get disheartened, like, with criticism from show day after, because that's what I did a lot of the times kind of after show day. I would really dwell on things that the judges would say, like, oh, like your shoulders were too big. Like loads of people always commented on my shoulders, like they're too big, your body fitness. But I knew, yeah, I knew in my heart, I was like, my shoulders aren't that big. But this is only from some judges. It's not all of the judges. Like some judges will be like, you look perfect, like you look really good, but there was obviously other people there, blah, blah, like different people that were better than you, which is fair enough. Some people be like, your shoulders are too big. And it's like, you would never get a straight answer. So I always say, take criticism as what it is. Like, don't take it personally. Don't just take it within the industry and just let it be that. Because a lot of people take it so personally and get really disheartened by it. And then that will stop them from competing because they can't handle the criticism, when this is what kind of the sport's about. They're judging you on your body, which that's kind of how I look at it. They're judging you on your body and your presence, so you kind of got to take it as that.
And the third one?
I don't know.
What about like when it comes to training? Like I know that the last thing you want to do sometimes is actually go into the gym like itself. Like how do you go about tackling that from like a mindset point of view?
I think for the last stages of prep, like going through the last stages of prep, is do not give up and give it your absolute all. Like I'm not even joking. Like if you can't be bothered, there has been so many days where I've like, I'm not going to do cardio today because my body is fucked, and like I need to listen to my body because it needs a rest. You need to push through it, and you need to kind of man up and do it anyway. Because this is what I always say, is that this is what this sport is about. Like you need to push yourself to places you've never even been before, like mindset wise, of just pushing your body to its absolute hardest, and kind of just giving absolutely everything you got into what you can kind of present on stage. Because the worst thing is you looking back and being like, I could have done more. And like, that's just the worst feeling, being like, I could have done that cardio session that I missed, or I could have not had that like cheat meal that I wasn't supposed to have, or something like that. So I think the thing is, the last tip is just to give it your all and don't give up.
Awesome. Okay, so I think we're nearly at the end of this podcast now. So what is next for Phoebe Hagan? Like, have you already started thinking about like next year?
Oh God, I have no clue what to do for next year. I don't know. I always get to this at this point and I'm like, I don't know what to do next year. But I think, yeah, I'm definitely going to do shows next year, because I know a lot of people that are going to take a year out. But you can't keep me away from the stage that long. So I'm going to carry on competing next year. But I don't know when I'll be competing.
Oh, to be continued. I like that. So like maybe early next year?
I think probably like I want to do. The thing is, I don't know. Obviously, there's loads of really iffy ups and downs with all this kind of federation, these new federations coming in. So I'm not too sure what I want to do federation wise anyway. But I think probably would want to compete maybe like May, June time, or like maybe even July, just because I think this year I did a June competition, and I really enjoyed doing like a bit of a later one instead of doing one in like April or something, because I feel I'll probably stop if I was to do one in like March, April, I'd probably start prep like middle of January, and I.
Oh my god, yeah, because I know there's like some people that like start their prep like during Christmas.
Oh, who are these people?
No joke. I remember seeing like some girls competing or like prepping, and they'll bring like their Tupperwares to like Christmas parties and stuff.
Oh my God, I couldn't do that. I've got to admit, I am a lover of just junk food. Like I do, like I love fueling my body with good food, but then I also love the occasional like just dirty foods, which like I'll happily admit that. Like it's not ashamed to like junk food or anything, but I do love like a good old plate of like roast dinner and stuff like that. I love it.
Yeah, like I think there's a massive like misconception as well, because like if I'm ever at a buffet, I swear I've got like so many people like watching like what I eat, and I'm just like, for God's sake, like I'm still normal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people think when like obviously you post it all over social media, and I think like your friends or people that aren't into bodybuilding anyway, they think you eat healthy 24/7 and you do not have anything else, and like that is totally not true. Like you should literally you could ask any of my friends, any of my family of what I used to eat. Like I used to eat so badly, like you would not believe. And like now they're like, oh my God, you're eating so healthy. Like, but then when they do see me with quote unquote unhealthy foods, like they'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe you're eating that. Like you don't eat that anymore. And it's like, I do, but like prep's different. Like prep gives you more control. Like obviously when you're off season, like if you want a chocolate bar, you can have a chocolate bar, but you're also gonna be like balanced and stuff with your diet.
Yeah, like I definitely think getting a balance in your off season and like not depriving yourself is, well, personally, that's like the way that I think really helps.
Yeah, I think that's very important. I think that's what off season is. That's very important. Like you can shove in as many calories as possible, but then also you need to find balance, because when you go into competition prep, you don't want to make it any harder for yourself. Like any more harder for yourself, really.
Okay, so a bit of a scenario here. If a client came to you saying, look, I want to compete, I really want to do this, but then you can start to see like certain signs that they haven't got probably the best relationship when it comes to food. Maybe like have like a few like binge episodes like here and there. Like what would be your advice to them?
Rethink if they had an issue already with obviously binge eating and stuff. I would probably not put them on a prep diet, or I wouldn't consider putting them in for a show until I'd got rid of obviously all of those habits anyway, because I do think what prep does create sometimes, and it is very difficult for people, is disorders with binge eating and body dysmorphia and stuff, which is really sad. But I think that starts from way back within the prep, like, and then once you've finished within the prep, that's when it kind of starts. So I think if someone was to come with me with an issue and say, oh, I've been binge eating, like I want to get it sorted, but I also want to do a competition next year, I would hold off on the competition for them, and kind of sort out their issues with binge eating and stuff like that, kind of getting them on a structured plan and kind of helping them stop their binges and stuff like that.
Yeah, like I think that's really important. Like obviously when you come out of your contest prep, like your head might be a bit all over the place, but I think before you go into a contest prep, like your head has really got to be in like quite a sound place in terms of food, body, and all that sort of thing, like before you go into one.
Yeah, I think the thing is that what I've seen a lot is on Instagram stuff is a lot of people saying that post competition is like a lot more difficult than actual prep itself, which I think is very, very true. And post competition, like you can have that freedom, you can eat that chocolate bar if you want to, but then it's also a case of, if you want to improve, you also have to have that little bit of restriction and not go crazy, and still eat like your protein, your carbs, your fats, still do cardio if you need to, and stuff like that. But obviously that's the difference between just some people.
Awesome. Okay, so I think we've pretty much like covered everything now. Like, is there anything else that you feel like we need to go over or we haven't kind of touched on properly?
I don't think so. I think we literally have covered everything.
In that case, then, Phoebe, if people want to get in contact with you or find you, like, how can they go and do that?
They can email me at info, info at phtrainingonline.com. That's my email. And then my website is www.phtrainingonline.com. And that's pretty much how I communicate, or PH Training on Facebook, my Facebook page. And my Instagram is just another fitness blogger.
I love that name, by the way.
I know, like, it was so random. Like, when I was first, because I had a personal account and a fitness account, pretty much how like everyone starts on their like fitness journey, I swear. And then like I transitioned my personal over like just to my fitness, which was like a massive thing. And I was like, I can't do that. But yeah, I was like, what do I name myself? Because everyone always has like just like fitness at the end. And I'm like, no, I want something different. So I call myself that. And everyone's like, oh my God, you're just another fitness blogger. I'm like, yeah.
It's so memorable. Like, I always remember that name, like, when I'm on Instagram and stuff like that. So, like, awesome. Okay. Massive thank you to Phoebe for coming on to this podcast. And thank you so much, guys, for listening. Just FYI, like, if anyone wants to kind of be on the podcast or they want anything covered in particular, then just let me know. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review if you haven't already. This has been your host, Jasmine Anderson, and this has been Not Just a Bikini Girl podcast. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks, Phoebe.